I don't understand why people act like cheating is so black and white. Like it's this absolute thing with no nuance or context or degrees. Like every instance of physical contact outside a relationship is the same level of betrayal, regardless of circumstances or feelings or intentions. The world doesn't work that way. Human behavior doesn't work that way. But everyone wants simple categories and clear rules, and the ability to judge without thinking. I didn't even like it. That's what people don't understand. That's the crucial detail everyone ignores when they're busy condemning me. If you don't enjoy something, does it really count? If there's no pleasure, no satisfaction, no positive experience whatsoever, can it really be called cheating? Isn't cheating supposed to be about getting something you want from someone else? About seeking pleasure or connection or validation outside your relationship? If none of those things happened, what exactly did I cheat at? There were no feelings involved. Zero. None. I didn't develop emotions for this person, didn't start caring about them, didn't think about them before or after, didn't want a relationship or connection or anything beyond the physical moment. It was completely divorced from anything emotional or meaningful. No emotions, no connection, no bonding or intimacy or anything that would actually threaten a marriage. Just physical mechanics with no heart behind them. Just bodies moving without minds or souls engaged. How is that the same as actual emotional betrayal? It was just a physical mistake. Barely even that. A momentary lapse. A few minutes of poor judgment. A thing that happened and then ended and meant nothing to anyone involved. Not a pattern. Not a choice made repeatedly. Not an affair or relationship or ongoing deception. Just one isolated incident. I was honest about it. That should count for something. That should matter. I could have hidden it, could have lied, could have taken it to my grave, and he never would have known. But I didn't. I told him. I confessed. I was transparent and truthful even though it was hard and uncomfortable. That has to count for something in the moral calculation. I speak about this like I'm explaining basic logic to children, because that's what it feels like. Like I'm surrounded by people who can't understand nuance, who can't see past their black and white thinking into the grey reality of human experience. Like I'm the only rational person in a world of emotional reactionaries. I wasn't trying to hurt him. That's important. My intention was never to cause pain. I wasn't acting out of malice or revenge or anger. I didn't do it to make him feel bad or to punish him for anything. It just happened. And when it happened, I made the mature choice to be honest about it. I was just being rational, following my own internal logic, making decisions based on what actually mattered rather than arbitrary social rules. Being evolved enough to see that not all betrayals are equal. That context matters, that intention matters, that enjoyment matters. I still believe this makes sense, even now, even after everything that happened. I still think my logic is sound, my reasoning is valid, my perspective is more mature and evolved than the conventional thinking that destroyed my marriage. Before we get into it, don't forget to like and subscribe. And hit hype to boost this episode. Drop a comment below with your city or country. I'm always curious where viewers are joining from. It was a Thursday night, late, past midnight. The kitchen clock showed 12:43 a.m. in glowing blue digits that seemed too bright in the darkness. We were both still up, even though we both had work in the morning. Even though alarms would go off in less than 6 hours. One of those nights where sleep seems impossible, even though you're exhausted. Where your mind is too active to shut down. Where anxiety or stress or unspoken tension keeps you wired long past when your body wants to rest. Where you know you'll regret staying up late tomorrow, but you can't make yourself go to bed anyway. We were sitting at the kitchen table, in the small pool of light from the overhead fixture. The rest of the house dark and silent around us. Him with his laptop open, catching up on work emails he'd ignored during the day, the blue screen light making his face look tired and older than his years. Me with my phone, scrolling mindlessly through social media, seeing the same content recycled over and over, the same jokes and outrage and performative happiness, unable to stop, even though nothing was interesting or engaging anymore. The silence between us wasn't comfortable, hadn't been for days. There was weight to it, expectation, like we were both waiting for something to break the surface tension that had been building since Monday night. I'd been carrying this secret for 3 days, 72 hours, 4,320 minutes. I'd counted them all, 3 days of it sitting heavy in my chest like a stone I'd swallowed. 3 days of barely being able to look at him. 3 days of knowing I needed to tell him, but not knowing how. Not knowing what words could possibly make this okay. Not knowing if honesty was really the best policy when the truth would only cause pain. The thing had happened on Monday night, a work event that had started innocently enough, a retirement party for someone in accounting, the whole office there, open bar, music, that end-of-workday energy where people get looser, friendlier, more willing to socialize outside their normal hierarchies. I'd had too much wine, way too much, lost count after the 4th glass, stopped caring after the 5th, that dangerous level of intoxication where you feel invincible and consequences seem like something that happens to other people, where inhibitions dissolve and judgment gets cloudy and you make decisions you'd never make sober. There was this coworker, someone I'd worked with peripherally for 2 years but never really talked to. Not someone I found attractive, not someone I'd ever looked at that way. Just a person who existed in my professional orbit. But that night, drunk and feeling reckless, when they suggested we slip away from the crowded bar to somewhere quieter, I'd said yes. It had happened in a bathroom. God, even thinking about it now makes me cringe. A bathroom at the bar. Locked door, 5 minutes maybe, probably less. Awkward and uncomfortable, and nothing like the passionate encounters you see in movies. Just fumbling and discomfort, and the immediate regret that sets in before you're even done. I'd felt guilty immediately, disgusted with myself, ashamed in a way that made my skin crawl. All the feelings you're supposed to feel when you've violated something sacred. I'd left the bar shortly after, hadn't said goodbye to anyone. Just grabbed my coat and ordered a rideshare and sat in the back seat trying not to cry. I'd gone home that night and stood in the shower for over 30 minutes, long past when the hot water ran out, standing under increasingly cold spray, trying to wash away the wrongness of it, trying to scrub the feeling off my skin, trying to reset my body and mind to before it happened, trying to undo what couldn't be undone, but I'd also analyzed it rationally as the days passed, broken it down logically, examined what had actually happened versus what it meant, compartmentalized, categorized, tried to understand the appropriate level of guilt and consequence for what I'd done, and I'd concluded that while it was definitely a mistake, it wasn't the kind of mistake that should destroy a marriage. It didn't rise to that level of severity, because there were important mitigating factors, because context mattered, because not all betrayals are equal. I hadn't enjoyed it. That was the key detail that kept circling back in my mind. The crucial element that seemed to change everything. It had been awkward and uncomfortable and unpleasant physically and emotionally. I'd felt nothing positive during or after. No pleasure, no excitement, no validation or ego boost or sense of satisfaction. Just discomfort and regret and a desperate desire for it to be over. So how could something I didn't enjoy, something that brought me no satisfaction whatsoever, count as real cheating? How could something I actively disliked during and after be treated the same as an affair or emotional betrayal or actively choosing someone else? The logic seemed sound to me, still seems sound even now. If betrayal is about seeking something you're not getting in your relationship, and I didn't get anything positive from this experience, then how is it betrayal in the truest sense? I'd been debating whether to tell him at all for all 3 days. Whether honesty was really the best policy when the truth would only cause pain about something that meant nothing. Whether it was more loving to protect him from knowledge that would hurt him unnecessarily. Whether confession was about my need to assuage guilt rather than his need to know. But I'd also read all those articles and advice columns and relationship books about how secrets destroy relationships slowly, how honesty is fundamental to trust, how you can't build genuine intimacy on lies and omissions, how coming clean is always the right choice even when it's hard and uncomfortable and potentially destructive. So I decided to tell him, to be honest, to confess and clear my conscience and deal with whatever consequences came. Because I was mature enough to face my mistakes, evolved enough to choose transparency over comfort, brave enough to risk his reaction rather than live with the weight of deception. I'd been trying to find the right moment for 3 days, the right time, the right setting, the right mood, the right energy, never quite finding it, always chickening out at the last second, always finding a reason to wait just one more day. But tonight, sitting at the kitchen table in the quiet of late night, it felt like the moment had arrived, like I couldn't carry it anymore, like I had to get it out or it would poison me from the inside. "I need to tell you something," I said, my voice cutting through the silence. He looked up from his laptop. "Okay." I took a breath. "Something happened Monday night, after the work thing, and I need to be honest with you about it because I don't want to have secrets." His expression changed, went from relaxed to alert. "What happened?" I told him. Simply, directly. No drama or build-up, just the facts. That I'd had too much to drink, that I'd ended up kissing a coworker, that it had gone further than it should have, that it was a mistake I regretted immediately, that it meant nothing and would never happen again. He sat very still, staring at me, his face unreadable. I kept talking, filling the silence with explanation. "It was nothing, really. There were no feelings involved. I don't even find him attractive. It was just alcohol and poor judgment and a moment of stupidity. It didn't mean anything." Still he said nothing, just looked at me with this expression I couldn't decipher. So I said the line I thought would help. The line I thought would minimize the damage. The line that made sense in my head but would destroy everything when spoken aloud. "Honestly, it didn't even feel good, so I don't think it should count as cheating. Like, if I didn't enjoy it, if I got nothing positive out of it, how is it really betrayal? It was just a physical mistake with no emotional component." The silence that followed was absolute, heavy, suffocating. He looked at me for a long moment, really looked at me, like he was seeing someone he didn't recognize, someone he'd never met before. Then he said, calmly, almost politely, with no anger or emotion in his voice at all, "Good, then you won't enjoy being single either." I laughed. It came out nervous and uncertain. "Stop, you're being dramatic." He stood up, closed his laptop, pushed his chair back carefully, moved deliberately. "I'm not being dramatic," he said quietly. "I'm being clear." That's when I realized he was serious, when the laughter died in my throat and fear took its place. I need to explain my reasoning, because everyone keeps acting like what I said was insane, like my logic was fundamentally flawed. But it wasn't. It made perfect sense if you actually think about it, instead of just reacting emotionally. No emotions involved. That's the first and most important point. I didn't fall for this person. Didn't develop feelings. Didn't think about them romantically. Didn't want a relationship or connection beyond that moment. It was purely physical, with zero emotional component. And isn't emotional betrayal the real betrayal? Isn't the heart what matters, not the body? No second time. It happened once and only once. I didn't seek this person out again. Didn't try to recreate it. Didn't want more. Didn't develop a pattern or habit or ongoing deception. One time, one mistake, over and done. How is that the same as an affair? No attraction, I genuinely didn't find this person attractive. Before, during, or after. They weren't someone I'd ever looked at romantically, weren't someone I'd ever fantasized about or wanted. The physical act wasn't driven by desire or lust or attraction, just proximity and alcohol and poor judgment. No future. There was never any question of leaving my husband for this person. Never any thought of pursuing something more. Never any fantasy about a different life. It was completely contained to that moment with no forward projection whatsoever. I admitted it myself. I could have hidden it, lied about it, taken it to my grave, but I chose honesty, chose transparency, chose to tell the truth, even though it was hard. That has to count for something morally. That has to earn me some credit in the calculation. I thought honesty would fix it, genuinely thought that confessing would clear the air, that being truthful would demonstrate my commitment to our relationship, that admitting my mistake would show maturity and growth. I expected him to be upset, sure, but I also expected him to appreciate my honesty, to value that I chose truth over comfort. I genuinely expected him to thank me for telling the truth. Maybe not immediately, maybe not that night, but eventually, once the initial shock wore off, once he processed it rationally instead of emotionally. I expected him to recognize that my honesty was a gift, a choice, a demonstration of respect, even in the midst of a mistake. "Don't you see?" I said to him as he stood there looking at me. "I'm telling you because I respect you, because I don't want secrets between us, because I value our relationship enough to be honest even when it's hard." "You're telling me because you feel guilty," he said quietly. "You're confessing to make yourself feel better, to transfer some of the burden to me, to force me to deal with your mistake." "That's not true," I protested. "I'm being transparent. Isn't that what we're supposed to do? Isn't honesty supposed to be the foundation of marriage?" "Honesty would have been not doing it in the first place," he said. "This isn't honesty. This is damage control." I should probably admit that this wasn't the first time I'd tested boundaries, pushed limits, explored the edges of what was acceptable in our relationship. It was kind of my pattern, my way of understanding where the lines were, my method of figuring out what I could and couldn't do. I'd joked before about open rules, nothing serious, just casual comments about how maybe monogamy wasn't realistic for everyone. How maybe expecting one person to meet all your needs forever was unreasonable. How maybe modern relationships could look different than traditional ones. Just thoughts, just observations, just testing how he'd react. He'd always gotten quiet when I said these things. Never engaged, never argued, just went silent and distant. I said once that cheating once a year was statistically normal, that I'd read studies about how many people stray at least once during long-term relationships, that maybe we should normalize it instead of treating it like the worst thing in the world, that maybe accepting that humans make mistakes would be healthier than expecting perfection. He'd looked at me like I'd said something disturbing. "Is that how you see our marriage? As a place where you get one free pass a year?" "No," I'd said quickly. "I'm just saying, maybe we should be realistic about human nature." "I am being realistic," he'd said. "I'm realistic enough to know I don't want to be with someone who's planning their annual betrayal." I compared him to other men as jokes, mentioned when coworkers were attractive, commented on friends' husbands, pointed out celebrities I found appealing. Nothing serious, just observations, just being honest about noticing other people existed. He'd told me once it bothered him, that constantly being compared to other men made him feel inadequate, that hearing me talk about other people's attractiveness felt disrespectful. I'd told him he was being insecure, that noticing other people doesn't mean anything, that he should be confident enough not to feel threatened. I tested boundaries constantly, little things, flirting with servers at restaurants, giving my number to a guy at a bar for professional networking, staying out late with coworkers, coming home smelling like alcohol and someone else's cologne, pushing, testing, seeing how far I could go before he'd push back. I framed it as being modern, as not conforming to outdated relationship norms, as being evolved enough to recognize that attraction to others doesn't end just because you're married, as being honest about human nature instead of pretending to be something I wasn't. He had warned me before, multiple times, in different ways, sometimes directly, saying things like, "I need you to respect our relationship," sometimes indirectly, by getting quiet and distant when I pushed too far. I didn't listen. I told myself he was being traditional, controlling, unable to handle a modern, progressive relationship. I told myself his discomfort was his problem, not mine. Looking back now, I can see every warning sign, every moment he tried to set a boundary I pushed against. Every time he expressed discomfort, I dismissed. Every indication that I was damaging something I didn't realize was already cracking. But I didn't see it then, or I saw it and didn't care, or I saw it and thought I could keep pushing indefinitely without consequences. He didn't yell. That's what caught me off guard. What made it more terrifying than if he'd exploded in anger. He just stood there in our kitchen at 12:30 in the morning, looking calm and resolved and distant. Then he did something that made my blood run cold. He walked to our bedroom. I heard the closet door open, heard hangers moving, heard drawers opening and closing. "What are you doing?" I called out, following him. My heart pounding now, fear creeping in to replace the false confidence I'd been maintaining. He was pulling clothes from his side of the closet, folding them, stacking them on the bed, his favorite shirts, his good jeans, his work clothes, moving methodically, deliberately, like he was following a checklist. "Packing," he said simply. "Packing for what? Where are you going?" He looked at me. "I'm not going anywhere. You are." My stomach dropped. "What are you talking about?" "I'm ending something that clearly doesn't exist," he said calmly, going back to folding clothes. "A marriage requires fidelity, requires respect, requires both people valuing the commitment. We don't have that, so we don't have a marriage." "Stop being dramatic," I said, trying to regain control. "I made a mistake. I admitted it. We can work through this." "Can we?" he asked, not looking up from the shirt he was folding. "How do we work through you believing cheating doesn't count if you didn't enjoy it? How do I trust someone who's created a philosophy that excuses betrayal?" "I didn't say it excuses it," I protested. "I just said it's not the same as—" "As what?" he interrupted, his voice still that eerie calm. "As cheating that feels good? As betrayal you enjoyed? You're arguing about degrees of treachery like that makes it better. Like I should be grateful you felt bad while you were doing it." He switched from his clothes to mine, opening my drawers, pulling out my things, folding them with the same careful precision. "Stop," I said, my voice breaking. "Stop packing my things. I'm not leaving." He didn't stop. "You told me you cheated. You told me you don't think it counts because you didn't enjoy it. You've spent years testing boundaries and pushing limits, and seeing how little respect you could show me and still keep me. This is where it ends. He doesn't insult me, doesn't call me names, doesn't attack my character or appearance or worth as a person. Just states facts, observations, things I actually did and said, patterns I actually established. And somehow that hurts more than anger, more than yelling or accusations or emotional outbursts. His calm, rational assessment of my behavior is more devastating than rage could ever be. "You're throwing away our marriage over one mistake?" I ask desperately. "No," he says. "I'm ending our marriage because you don't understand what marriage means, because you think fidelity is negotiable, because you're more concerned with whether your betrayal felt good than with the fact that you betrayed me at all." He brings my suitcase from the hall closet, the large one, places it on the bed, starts packing my clothes into it with the same methodical care he's shown for everything else. "When did you pack this?" I ask, noticing the suitcase is newer than the one I usually use. "Did you buy a new suitcase?" "Yesterday," he says. After you got weird and guilty and distant on Tuesday, I knew something happened. I gave you 2 days to tell me yourself. You waited until tonight, so I prepared. The realization hits me like a physical blow. You already decided. Before I even told you, you were just waiting. I decided that if you'd done what I suspected, and if you tried to minimize it or excuse it, then yes, we were done. You confirmed both. He zips the suitcase, carries it to the front door, places it gently next to the coat closet, neatly, carefully, like he's handling something fragile. That's when I truly realize this is happening. This isn't a threat or a dramatic gesture or a fight we'll resolve after emotions cool. This is him actually ending our marriage. Right now, tonight, in the calm quiet of a Thursday night that started normally and is ending with everything broken. I try to backtrack, to take it back, to say anything that might change his mind. I didn't enjoy it, I say desperately. Doesn't that matter? Doesn't that mean something? I got nothing out of it. No pleasure, no satisfaction, nothing. He looks at me with something like pity. The fact that you think that matters is exactly why this has to end. It meant nothing, I continue, tears starting now. It was nothing, just a stupid mistake that I regret. If it meant nothing, he says quietly, then losing me shouldn't hurt either. The logic of it stops me cold, turns my own reasoning back on me. If the thing I did doesn't count because I didn't enjoy it, then the thing I'm losing shouldn't hurt because it clearly didn't mean enough to me to not risk it. That's not the same, I whisper. Isn't it? He asks. You're arguing that actions without positive feelings don't count as real, that things done without enjoyment don't matter, so apply that logic to us. If you valued this marriage, you wouldn't have risked it. If you enjoyed being my wife, you wouldn't have done something to jeopardize it. So clearly, being with me didn't mean much, so leaving me shouldn't hurt much either. He opens the door. The night air rushes in. Cold, October air that smells like dying leaves and change. I'm still your wife, I say weakly. One last appeal. No, he says. You're someone who was my wife until she decided the rules didn't apply to her. Now you're just someone I used to know. He gestures to the suitcase, to the door, to the night beyond. I've called you an Uber, he says, showing me his phone screen. It'll be here in 3 minutes. Your sister knows you're coming. She said you can stay with her while you figure things out. He'd thought of everything, planned every detail, made arrangements. This wasn't impulsive. This was considered. Final. Please, I whisper, please don't do this. You did this, he says, when you made the choice, when you created a philosophy to excuse it, when you told me about it like it was no big deal because you didn't enjoy it. You did all of this. The Uber notification pings. 3 minutes away, 2 minutes, 1 minute, here. I stand frozen, unable to believe this is real, unable to accept that my marriage is ending in my doorway on a random Thursday night. Go, he says gently but firmly. Please, just go. I pick up my suitcase, my hands shaking so hard I almost drop it, walk out into the cold night, turn back to look at him one more time. He's already closing the door, slowly, carefully, with finality. I hear the lock click, hear the deadbolt slide into place, hear my marriage end with sounds like security. I'm sitting in my sister's guest room now. It's been 2 weeks. 2 weeks of sleeping in an unfamiliar bed. 2 weeks of living out of a suitcase. 2 weeks of replaying that night over and over, trying to understand how it all went so wrong. I scroll through our text history sometimes, looking for clues I missed, warnings I ignored, moments I should have paid more attention to. All the times he tried to set boundaries I pushed against. All the times he expressed discomfort I dismissed. All the signs that I was damaging something I didn't realize was already breaking. His lawyer sent divorce papers a week ago. He's being more than fair with the division of assets. More than generous, actually. Not fighting me on anything, just asking to be done. to sever ties completely and move forward separately. I tell people who ask that I don't think I deserved this, that the punishment didn't fit the crime, that one mistake shouldn't end a marriage. I explain my reasoning, that I didn't cheat emotionally, that there were no feelings involved, that I didn't enjoy it, that it meant nothing. Surely that should count for something. Surely that should have earned me forgiveness. But somehow, despite all my logic, despite all my reasoning, despite everything that should have made it okay, I lost everything anyway. I sit here in this guest room that smells like lavender and other people's lives, and I try to understand where my thinking went wrong. How my perfectly logical framework for understanding what happened could have led to such a devastating result. People act like cheating is the worst thing in the world, like it's this unforgivable sin that destroys everything regardless of context or circumstances, or how the person who did it felt about it. Like, there's no difference between a drunken mistake you regret and an ongoing affair with someone you love. But I think intolerance is worse. I think the inability to forgive is worse. I think rigid black and white thinking that can't see nuance or context is worse. I think punishing someone for being honest is worse. I think destroying a marriage over something that meant nothing is worse. My sister disagrees. She told me yesterday, gently but firmly, that I needed to take responsibility, that I couldn't blame my ex-husband for having boundaries, that I couldn't frame his decision to leave as intolerance when really it was self-respect. But I don't see it that way. I still think he overreacted, still think he was too rigid, still think he should have been able to forgive something that I didn't even enjoy doing. And that's why I'm alone. Not because I cheated, but because even after losing everything, I still can't see that my logic was fundamentally flawed. That enjoyment isn't the measure of betrayal. That lack of pleasure doesn't erase the violation of trust. That honesty about a mistake doesn't obligate forgiveness. I still believe my framework makes sense, that cheating you didn't enjoy shouldn't count the same as cheating you did enjoy. That physical mistakes without emotional connection aren't real betrayal. That one time doesn't equal a pattern. I believe these things even as I sit in a guest room in my sister's house, divorced and alone, having lost everything because of exactly these beliefs. And that disconnect, that inability to see the flaw in my own thinking, is the real tragedy. Not that I cheated, not even that I got caught, but that I destroyed my marriage, and I still don't truly understand why. I ended my marriage the moment I decided my logic mattered more than my commitment, the moment I created a framework to excuse betrayal, the moment I valued being right over being faithful. But I'll probably never fully accept that. I'll probably always tell myself he was too rigid, too unforgiving, too unable to see the nuance I was trying to explain. And that's why I'm here, alone, confused, convinced I was rational even as I faced the consequences of thinking that made no sense to anyone but me. People act like cheating is the worst thing in the world. I used to think they were wrong. Now I'm starting to think they might be right, not because cheating itself is unforgivable, but because the kind of thinking that excuses cheating, that reframes it, that creates philosophies to justify it, that kind of thinking is incompatible with marriage. And I had that kind of thinking, have it still, even now, even after everything. And that's why he left, and why he was right to leave, and why I'll probably never truly understand that he was right. Because I'm still sitting here thinking, if I didn't enjoy it, how could it really count? And that question, that inability to see why the answer doesn't matter, is why I'll probably be alone for a very long time. I decided that if you'd done what I suspected, and if you tried to minimize it or excuse it, then yes, we were done. You confirmed both. He zips the suitcase, carries it to the front door, places it gently next to the coat closet, neatly, carefully, like he's handling something fragile. That's when I truly realize this is happening. This isn't a threat or a dramatic gesture, or a fight we'll resolve after emotions cool. This is him actually ending our marriage. Right now. Tonight. In the calm quiet of a Thursday night that started normally and is ending with everything broken, I try to backtrack, to take it back, to say anything that might change his mind. I didn't enjoy it, I say desperately. Doesn't that matter? Doesn't that mean something? I got nothing out of it. No pleasure, no satisfaction, nothing. He looks at me with something like pity. The fact that you think that matters is exactly why this has to end. It meant nothing, I continue, tears starting now. It was nothing, just a stupid mistake that I regret. If it meant nothing, he says quietly, then losing me shouldn't hurt either. The logic of it stops me cold, turns my own reasoning back on me. If the thing I did doesn't count because I didn't enjoy it, then the thing I'm losing shouldn't hurt because it clearly didn't mean enough to me to not risk it. That's not the same, I whisper. Isn't it? He asks. You're arguing that actions without positive feelings don't count as real, that things done without enjoyment don't matter. So apply that logic to us. If you valued this marriage, you wouldn't have risked it. If you enjoyed being my wife, you wouldn't have done something to jeopardize it. So, clearly, being with me didn't mean much. So leaving me shouldn't hurt much either. He opens the door. The night air rushes in. Cold. October air that smells like dying leaves and change. I'm still your wife, I say weakly. One last appeal. No, he says. You're someone who was my wife until she decided the rules didn't apply to her. Now you're just someone I used to know. He gestures to the suitcase, to the door, to the night beyond. I've called you an Uber, he says, showing me his phone screen. It'll be here in 3 minutes. Your sister knows you're coming. She said you can stay with her while you figure things out. He'd thought of everything, planned every detail, made arrangements. This wasn't impulsive. This was considered, final. Please, I whisper, please don't do this. You did this, he says, when you made the choice, when you created a philosophy to excuse it, when you told me about it like it was no big deal because you didn't enjoy it. You did all of this. The Uber notification pings. 3 minutes away. 2 minutes. 1 minute. Here. I stand frozen, unable to believe this is real, unable to accept that my marriage is ending in my doorway on a random Thursday night. Go, he says gently but firmly. Please just go. I pick up my suitcase, my hands shaking so hard I almost drop it, walk out into the cold night, turn back to look at him one more time. He's already closing the door, slowly, carefully, with finality. I hear the lock click, hear the deadbolt slide into place, hear my marriage end with sounds like security.